Are you recording?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to talk to you about animal rights and the experiments behind them. So the active experimentation on animals has been going on for a very long time. And Aristotle would say that humans are on the top of the animal hierarchy because we can reason and have rational souls. And so since he said that, he believes that animals can be used for experiments because we are above them. And then you have Kant, who says that animals can feel pain and they can suffer. And so with him saying that, he thinks that animals should not be used for experimentations because they can feel those pain and suffering that we feel. So with Kant and utilitarianism in mind, is using animals for testing immoral, and is it a violation of their animal rights? So what are animal rights? Animals deserve to be considered like humans. They deserve to see what is their best interest, just like we do. Animals are not things for ours to take, so we can't necessarily just go use them for food, clothing, entertainment, and in this case, experimentation. And Peter Singer wrote a book called Animal Liberation, and he said in that book that animals have the right to be equal and to be considered based on their measure to suffer. So he's basically saying that we suffer just as much as they do, and they feel the same amount of pain as we do, so therefore you shouldn't use them in experimentations. And then Tom Reagan, who is an American philosopher, he has a master's in animal rights theory, and he believed that animals' life has moral value and moral status to it. So again, just someone saying that you shouldn't do this to animals. And then you have the utilitarian view on animal rights. And so utilitarianism looks at like the harms and benefits of the situation, the goods and bads, and so of the greater population, and that kind of determines their final actions to a situation. And so their view for animal testing can be kind of hard to determine because one can't calibrate the harms and benefits of these experimentations. And so the example of that would be the development of cardiopulmonary bypass surgery. So this is like the surgery that has been done on a number of animals, which is the great to the population, causes the greatest harm. But in those surgeries, human lives has been saved, so that is a big benefit. And since that benefit is saving those human lives, utilitarianism, that view would consider this use of animals justifiable. And then you have alternatives. So there are more than 50 alternatives to animal testing. You have cell cultures, and this is important in areas like cancer, kidney disease, AIDS, and more. And so animals and humans both have cells that can be grown in a lab, and these cells can be transformed into 3D structures. And the 3D structures allow scientists and doctors to have many organs on hands, so this will provide them with lifelike ways to do these surgeries instead of using animals. And then they also have organ on chips, and these are devices that study biological and disease processes. So this is just another way for it to be more relevant to humans because these devices are made to look like the heart, the lungs, the kidneys, and the gut. And then you have human tissues, and humans can provide their healthy and diseased tissues, and it's a study of human biology and disease that again is just more relevant to the humans. And so an example is the skin and eye modules that are produced from reassembled skin from the humans, so that just gives an example of what human anatomy would be like compared to animals, and therefore again more relevant to the practice that they work on. And then you have computer models, and so this allows for replication of certain parts of the human body. There's models already made for the heart, the lungs, the kidneys, the skin, and the digestive tract, and this just produces a virtual aid. So like the hands-on organs, it just gives another aid, another helpful tool for those scientists and doctors to do these practices instead of using animals. And then you have human volunteers, and there's a technique called microdosing, and this measures how tiny amounts of new drugs impact the human body. And so overall, alternatives are better for animals and humans because the alternative can provide better results on human reactions. And so an example is when they do skin allergy tests, they usually do them on guinea pigs, and these tests only estimate the human reaction of 72%, but if you do the cell culture alternative that uses the human cells, the estimate of human reactions is up to 90%. So it just gives, once again, that more relative to human biology than animals. And then so in conclusion, animals have rights of their own. Again, they're not ours to do whatever with. They can feel pain and suffer just like we do. Utilitarianism may have a hard time to determine, again, on this experiment, whether who is harmed more compared to who is benefited more. But I think that they would be pleased with the alternatives because the harm of the animal does stop, but the benefit of the human lives being saved still continues. And we're done.